So today we're putting together a Gazebo Luminary. This is one that has been requested time and time again. It's been on our list. So for those of you that have been waiting, here it is. And we are incorporating it in our new patriotic bundle. But there's really, well, nothing specifically patriotic about it. We are going to take these little American flags that come on toothpicks and use them as embellishments. And I have a few of our dreamers that are actually helping us create these to celebrate other countries as well. We've got Canada, the UK, and Denmark currently, and we look forward to seeing your version to celebrate your country. But of course, you can definitely use this for a wedding. It could be an anniversary or a retirement, graduation. I could see this being used for all sorts of things, and really all you have to do is just, change the colors up and make it your own. So anyway, kind of got it broken down into stages. We're going to begin by putting together our base, and cool thing about this is by default, the base that you're going to get is one that fits 3 candles, and we'll have all the dimensions and everything posted in the supply list, but you can see how these 3 candles fit nicely. Now we're also including a version with just one hole in the middle for a Luminara-like candle. I'm not sure what the heck happened to this one, but these are the Luminary candles that, well, the battery's dead on this one, but they just have that really realistic looking flame. And then there's also a version that has no holes, and you can put whatever you want in place of, the candles. You can put some flowers in there maybe, or, well, anything that you desire. So without further ado, let's put together the base. And the base is just made up of these 2 pieces. So again, if you're making it for 3 candles, that is the default. These files are separate. Actually, all 3 of these are separate. If you want to make one with just one hole for one larger candle, you're going to want to not cut these, and you're going to go into your extras folder, and you're going to find the version with a single hole or the one with no holes at all. Okay, so those are going to be in your extras folder. You want to cut those instead of cutting these 3 elements. Okay, so anyway, I've already kind of pre-folded everything, and all we're going to do to form this base is join the sides together by simply applying glue to the little triangular tabs here, and then we're going to fold this in and take that tab and glue it to the back side of this wall, as I'll call it. These are going to be our walls. Okay, just make sure that you get them nice and lined up, and hold that for just a moment while it sets. Okay, and then we can move on to the next section here. So we'll simply just put some glue on the next triangular tab. I'm going to hit that with my finger just to thin it out, spread it out, and pull that in, connect, and press and hold. Okay. And again, I noticed a few comments where you guys are saying that sometimes you try to keep up with me. I have a feeling that that may indicate that maybe you're using a little too much glue, or it could be something with the paper too. Maybe the paper's just not absorbing the glue as well as this AC cardstock is. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're gluing. If it's not flowing and you're not moving along efficiently, it could be because you're putting too much glue on there. And try using a little bit less. Okay, so same thing there, just putting a little bit of glue on that triangular tab and tucking it behind this wall, the neighboring wall, and just pressing and holding until that is fully set, and just making our way around to the next section. Same exact thing all the way around. Just make sure you get that nice and lined up, and press and hold. Almost there. Got one more little tab to glue down. There it is right there. Now this one we can't really pull out. There we go. And just tuck that behind. Get it lined up and press and hold that down for just a moment. Okay, now this piece here, we're actually going to use this once we get the main gazebo all put together. So we can put that off to the side for now. We don't need it right now. Okay, so we have that together. Now what we want to do is just put the bottom on. Okay, this is our bottom piece here. And let me see here. Yep. So first thing we're going to want to do is anchor this onto one tab. So go ahead and put some glue on just one of these tabs. And I'm going to spread that out all the way to the very edge. Make sure it's nice and crisp and clean. And sometimes I don't get it all the way out to the very corners, and then I end up with problems. So I want to make sure not to do that this time. So just get that nice and centered and nice and flush with the very edge of this little wall, as I'll call it, this vertical piece. Okay, and I can flip that down and press down from the inside to get that to hold. Let's take a look here. How'd I do? Pretty good. Maybe a smidge off, but that's all right. It's gonna look just fine. And that's actually the bottom. No one's even gonna see that really. So if you're a hair off, just keep on moving, don't worry about it. Okay, so now we need to put glue on the remaining tabs here. And we're gonna close this up. And then of course we have some overlays that are gonna go on the vertical walls to kind of give it a two-toned look and just to give it a little extra detail. As you probably have noticed with Dreaming Tree projects, we really pride ourselves on the little details that make things what they are. Try to keep the main structure simple and just kind of take them to the next level by using and adding these details. So this was one of the first sides I did, and I can already tell that it's drying up on me, so I had to reapply some glue there. All right, so now focus on aligning this edge with this side first. Make sure that that gets nice and centered, and if you need to kind of nudge that wall, or you need to push it in a little bit, you can do so. And then that will help kind of set the tone for the remaining sides here. I kind of given these walls a little bit of a nudge if they need it, just to make sure everything is nice and lined up. And now I'm going to go around and just kind of add a very soft downward force onto these walls, just to make sure that everything is making contact with that glue. I can already tell that some of that glue started to dry really quick. And you would think that with the additional humidity that we have, that this would kind of make the glue not dry as quick, but hence the name, quick drying. Okay, so that looks good. Now you'll notice that this is not centered, and that's by design. Well, depending on how you look at it. There's a tiny little F as in Frank here, and that signifies the front. Okay, so that's going to come into play a little bit later on in the assembly. But take a look at the bottom, make sure everything is making good contact. Mine is. So what we can do now is find these pieces here, these little rectangles. Oh, just had a pearl try to run away. Okay, so these little rectangles here, I've gone ahead and inked and I've embossed them as well. And these are going to go right here like so. Okay. Now the reason that sometimes what we do is we'll have these connected, maybe two sides connected, but for the sake of embossing, these are actually separated. So we do need to glue each one on separately. Pretty much the same amount of work, so it's not a big deal. So get your glue on there and get it nice and centered right on the side there. Make sure it's as centered as you can get it. Okay. And this is actually a Sizzix embossing folder. Looks kind of cool, almost like a, what does it look like? Well, the scallops kind of almost look like shingles, which is why we used them for the roof, and then figured add a little bit of interest to the bottom as well. Okay, so we're just going around getting that centered, just like that. Make sure that it's nice and flush at the top and bottom, nice and even all the way around. And moving on to the next one. And try to make sure you get some glue all the way out to the very edges of these pieces so that they don't come off, especially if they accidentally get snagged or something. Okay, there we go. It's looking pretty sharp so far. Okay, 3 more to go, and then our base is done. We can start moving on to the main structure, which is actually very simple. Okay. And if you are embossing, just make sure that the orientation of this, you're putting it on right so that it's consistent throughout. Here we go. Again, I'm kind of using my fingers and squeezing right here just to make sure that everything's nice and aligned, both at the top and bottom. Okay. Moving on to the next one. Just a couple more to go, and our base is ready to go. And it's actually not that difficult of a project. As far as dimensional assembly goes, there's just the roof that is probably a little bit more 3D than some of the other elements. This base, I guess, it is kind of 3D, but not overly. It's pretty straightforward, just kind of making boxes. So, okay, last one. I'm gonna pop that right in place. Again, just kind of, if you embossed, check your orientation, make sure you got that on there consistently. There we go. And there's our base. Wonderful. Looks pretty good. And where's my front? There's my front. Front looks pretty good. Okay, so base is done. I'm gonna put this off to the side and we can take a look at the main structure here. Now, you'll notice that I've already done some pre-prep here because it is pretty repetitive. So you've got these 2 pieces and you're gonna have a series of 6 panels. In our case, we did it in white, and 3, 4, 5 of them are identical. 5 of them have the fence and 1 of them does not. Okay, so you just wanna make sure, because I accidentally took this and almost glued it onto a section that has a fence here. You do not wanna do that. You wanna save this for this section here. Okay, so anyway, it's pretty straightforward. You can see where I messed up. I've got little stray red pieces here. When I was doing the pre-prep, that's when I goofed up. I'm glad I caught it before it fully dried. I was able to salvage it. So yeah, I make mistakes. This is my first time putting this together, as I'm sure it will be yours when you're watching this video, but if I can do it my first time, you can absolutely do it your first time. Okay, so we're just gonna put glue on the back of this, and again, make sure that you're putting this one in the right spot. There are a series of markers in each of the 4 corners to help you with the alignment. Okay, and of course you don't always want to completely rely on those markers, and give this a visual spot check here just to make sure that you have a nice even red border all the way around. Here, 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 and around this little cutout, this design here. Okay, so press that down into place. That looks good. Okay, so there we have it. We've got 1 section done. Obviously, you're gonna put this panel here and this panel here, and then this panel here, and then this one's gonna go here. So you're gonna put on all 6 panels. I'm only showing you 2 of them, just because the process is pretty much identical. Okay, so now this one here, this one has the little fence portion built into it, and I'll give you a little tip here on how to make sure that your alignment is spot on. And I'm just going to throw a little bit of glue in between these little posts here. Okay, so again, this one also has the little markers there. So I would use those as an initial visual. But then, as you get down here, you want to make sure that each of these little guys here, that this white piece, you're putting it exactly on top of the red section. It should lay on top of it perfectly so that none of that red is visible. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so again, you're going to put all 6 panels on. Okay, I did 4 of them off camera. All right, and now all that's left to do here is connect these 2 sections together using this tab here, and then we're going to connect it again using the other tab to make it all one continuous piece. So go ahead and apply your glue to that long tab there. And I'm going to spread that glue out nice and thin all the way out to the edges, like so. And just using my table, I'm going to go ahead and connect these 2 together. Just make sure that you have them nicely aligned, like so. And then once we have that, we can go ahead and fold it over onto itself. And you can see when we do that, this design here sits perfectly on top of the design behind it. And these tabs sit perfectly on top of each other. That is a good indicator that you have it almost perfectly aligned, or pretty much perfectly aligned. Okay, so there's that. And now we're going to take and put glue on this tab here. And we're going to join this all together, make it one continuous piece. And there you go, glue, messing with me again. Oh, geez. That's not good. Let me just get that with my fingernail. Not the end of the world. That happens. Okay, a lot of glue there. I'm going to pull some of that off because that is way too much. There we go. Could have been worse. Okay, so now I'm gonna lay this down flat. I like to work flat whenever possible. And I'll just take this side and match it up. And again, since this is a symmetrical piece, should be able to fold it completely flat like this. And that should help you automatically kind of get everything aligned as accurately as possible. That looks good. Fold it over onto itself there. And that's working out nicely. Whoops. Okay, so there's our gazebo. And we're gonna, and let's see, there's my little blue piece here. Okay, so a quick note here. This piece here that we're gonna put inside of the main gazebo, you'll notice that in one of the corners, there is a letter F. F for front, okay? So this is the front here. What you wanna make sure is that when you place this in, we're about to glue this down in here, you wanna make sure that this side that has the letter F is facing the front where this door is. So we wanna put it in so that the F is right here along the front. Okay, so this little blue piece is gonna go inside. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to glue, this is the bottom, remember make sure that you have the bottom and not the top. We're going to glue this to the blue section here. That's going to help it kind of hold its shape. Okay, so I'm going to start with just one side here. I'll just throw a little bit of glue on this. I'm not overly concerned about getting the glue spread out to the very edge. This is more or less just kind of a well, it is what it is. It's just a piece that is just going to kind of help it keep its shape, and no one's really going to see it. But you still want to, obviously, you still want to get it in there accurately, as precisely as you can. Okay, so now I've got this side glued down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to the side opposite of this side. I'm going to fold this tab down and apply my glue to this tab. And get that one nice and centered. And the cool thing is you have, well, if you're working with the version with holes, you've got some holes there to poke your fingers through. If you don't, you can always just flip it over like this. And actually that might be a little bit easier because you can really see it better. That worked out nicely. Okay, we'll flip her over and then pick another side. I'm gonna go to this side here. And I'm gonna put my glue on this tab. Like so. We'll flip her down and put that down on my table and just press with my finger right in there. Like that. And then go to the side opposite of that side. Apply your glue. Just like that. Fold that over and press. Okay, so you can see what's happening here. We're simply just gluing this blue piece to the tabs on the bottom there, and that just leaves 2 more tabs. So let's get those rocking and rolling here. Just throw a little bit of glue on the tab here, fold it over, then you can tuck it under and use your table. I'm kind of pushing this wall up against this blue piece as far as it'll go. There we go. And that just leaves 1 more tab here. Let's see how nice that looks. Throw a little glue on there. And fold that over, tuck it under. Again, kind of pushing in up against that blue piece. We'll press that down. And voila. Okay, so you can see what that looks like. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this little lip on here first, and that's just to clean this up and make it look nice. So we're gonna start by anchoring this little lip, not the lip, but just the top to just 1 tab first. Okay, so grab this piece and get it nice and lined up with just 1 of these tabs. Doesn't matter which one. Okay. And just press that down like you're making a pie. Just kind of squeeze it between your fingers. All right, that looks good. That's in place. And that there is my little Facebook counter. It's a new friend we just made on Facebook. So if you're not following us on Facebook, head on over and make my digital cat meow. Okay, so now we're gonna put glue on the remaining tabs and we're gonna close that top up. And sometimes it's easier when this is just right in front of my face. You can see what I'm doing better. Okay, and again, I'm gonna take that and just kind of spread that glue nice and thin, get it all the way out to the very edge. That one's got way too much, but that's okay. Maybe use a little bit of that on this one where I didn't get enough. And this one's already drying, so you gotta act quick if you're using this glue sometimes. It's just, well, it is what it is. I don't like that saying, but it's true. All right, so we're gonna focus on getting this side aligned, the side that is opposite the side that is anchored. So get that nice and centered. And by doing that, the rest of it sort of just falls into place. And we can go ahead and continue with our little pie making strategy here. And you know, if this all doesn't get glued down our first time, we can always go back in and add a little extra glue. I'm gonna need some there. I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. It's very simple and easy. And it looks like I might need some there too. We'll see, maybe not. Even if it isn't sticking initially, there's ways around that. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna grab a piece of scrap cardstock. Okay, you can see that here, just an old scrap from a cutout. And I'll throw a little bit of glue. Okay, glue bottle, what are you doing? Throw a little bit of glue right onto the edge. Let me get rid of this. Way too much glue there. Just throw a little bit of glue right to the very edge of a scrap piece of paper, like so. And then find the little areas where maybe it's just not making great contact, and just kind of tuck that in there. Paint a little bit of that glue right into that area, and then just press and hold that down. Give it a little extra love. Now, we're gonna have a lid on this, so it probably won't be super visible, but if you're giving this to someone and they, pop the lid open and they take a look at it, they'll see these little imperfections. And sometimes there's imperfections that there's nothing you can do about, but in this case, majority of the time, there is something we can do to kind of go back and fix it and, put in our best effort. Okay, so we have our top on. We've got the little blue piece with the holes all in place. And what we're gonna do next is we're going to glue this down to our base, okay, and we may need to rotate this a couple times just to make sure that when the circles match up, that we have a nice even border along the base. Okay, let me fix that real quick so you can see here. There you go. You can see how there's a nice even border all the way around. Because if you match these circles up, there are instances where the base is not equal all the way around. So you want to make sure that when you glue this down, that you're matching them up with the holes there, and that the base is nice and equal as far as the border goes. Okay, so to glue this down, all we're gonna do is put glue around the perimeter, and I'm gonna put a nice thick line here. Now you may be noticing some weird cutouts here at the bottom, and that's because I made a boo-boo. Don't worry about it. Just keep on trucking. You can ignore it. As long as you follow the video, I've made the necessary edits where I made the boo-boo. So yours should come out perfect. And that just shows you that I make mistakes. I actually made 2 mistakes on this project already, and that's okay. As they say, stuff happens. Okay, let's throw a little bit of glue on this section here. Okay, and again, you gotta make sure that when we put this down, that we have a nice even border all the way around before you commit to putting it down in place. Okay, so I checked my work here, making sure that everything is nice and lined up. Nice even border all the way around. That looks good. And then you can kind of grab where the holes are to help kind of get it all in place. And that looks good. Okay, so we've got our base in place. And now, one little thing to note here is in your cutout, or in your version, when you cut this out, you're gonna have a series of stars that cut out of paper. We're gonna leave those off because we have these really cool gold embellishments that we're gonna put in place of that. So mine's gonna look a little bit different because I have star embellishments, but you're gonna have stars that go here in the centers of each of these little arches. Okay, so don't forget to do that. And before we move on to the roof, we do have some bunting that we're going to put in place here. And I'm gonna show you, if you made the balloon, the hot air balloon, as well as the cake, then you're familiar with this new little piece that we have here. It looks like this, okay? It comes out flat, and to shape it, all you do is just kind of pinch it. There's a score mark that goes down the center, and you want to pinch on either side, on both sides of the score mark, just to kind of crease it. You don't want to push it down all the way, just a little bit, okay? And that's going to give it that dimension. And then here you'll see that there's a little score mark on this circle. You want to fold one side over, okay? And we're going to go ahead and put this in place. Okay, so I'm actually going to start, and you'll notice also on these white panels here, there are little indicators to help you with positioning of these little banners. Okay, so you just want to kind of keep them all around the same height. Okay, and what I'm doing is right here where the circle begins, that's kind of the point at which I'm lining this up with that little marker. Okay, so it should go right about there like that. If you're a little bit off, it's okay. Just want to make sure that you try to keep it as consistent as you can. And for this, I have learned to love my hot glue gun because otherwise, with regular glue, it does make it a little bit more difficult. So I've been using my hot glue gun for the little bunting portions here. So just throw a little dot of glue right on that little circle on both of them. Don't need a lot. That's the beauty of hot glue. And again, just kind of match it up with that little marker there. And again, if you're off a smidge, it's totally fine. It's not going to ruin it. And just hold that in place until it's fully set, which doesn't take long. And that's again another reason why I'm really digging the hot glue gun for this. Okay, and then it looks kind of weird, but we have some pretty little bows that we're going to actually put on top of that to hide those little circles. Okay, so as far as the pinching aspect of it goes, you're going to do that to, excuse me, looks 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 5 of these, and I seem to be missing one. I don't know, oh no, I'm not, never mind. So we'll just put some glue on the next one and just get these into place. I'm going to go all the way around. And this one here, you can literally take this little circle and place it right on top of the other one. And then this one here, of course, you just want to match it up with that little marker there. Okay, and just hold that in place while it sets. And there we go. Whoops. Oh, that's not good. I'm going to throw a little bit of glue on there. Get that right back into place. And I'm going to hold it a little bit longer just to make sure that it didn't go anywhere. Okay, that looks good so far. Dry hot glue. Okay, hopefully that doesn't come pulling off. Okay, so moving right along here to the next piece of bunting. Get a nice little piece of glue on there, some hot glue. There we go. Sometimes it helps to kind of pinch these just before you put them on. And just match that up with the previous little circle there. And then pop that into place on the other side using those little markers. And just hold that in place. There we go. Perfect. And if you don't get these perfectly on top of each other, it's okay again, because we've got a pretty little bow that we're going to put on there. It's going to hide all that anyway, so not a big deal. Also, just make sure that you fold the little half circle here at the very ends of our little swag. And that's going to help you kind of hug those corners a little bit better. Could be why my other one popped off there. Okay, so that goes right on top of the other one, and then this one's going to go right there, right by that little marker there. And just hold that in place, let that set, and that just leaves one more. And then we're going to move on to our little bows. And I think we'll wait to do the flag afterwards. Okay, and the last one here. And you're going to want to keep the hot glue out because I'm going to put a nice little pearl on top of the roof of our gazebo. And I think it's probably best that we use some hot glue to get that to stay nicely for us. Okay, so again, just popping that one right on top of the previous one and then lining this up. You might have to push it in a little bit to get it to hug that corner nicely, right up to that other little marker, and there we have it. Okay, and just hold that in place for a moment, let it set before you move on. And there we go. Okay, so, and I didn't do it. I jumped the gun. Hold it in place, make sure it sets before you move on. Do as I say, not as I do. There we go. I threw a little extra on there this time, and I'm gonna make sure to hold it. So be patient with that, and if you get a little bit of hot glue squeezing out because you had to add some extra, don't worry about it, because as I mentioned, I'm gonna put a nice little bow over that, and it's gonna cover up any little imperfections we may have, so not the end of the world. Okay, all right, so that's in place, and I'm still worried that that's going to pop off. But anyway, we've got our little bows here. I'm going to show you how to put 2 of them together. I already pre-assembled 4 of them, so you don't have to watch me do it 6 times. But each bow consists of these 3 pieces. Okay, the main bow, then there's the little tails, and then this little centerpiece. And what I did, if I can find it, I grabbed my dowel and I took and kind of wrapped the center of each of these loops around the dowel to make it a little round before I went ahead and formed them, just so that I don't crease them. Okay, now you'll notice that at the very tip of each of these is a little rectangle. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to just put a little bit of glue, just a tiny bit, on the rectangle. We're going to bring it in, and you'll also notice that in between these 2 loops is another little rectangle. We're going to bring this in and glue it down onto that center rectangle, and we're going to press and hold that down for a moment. Now while you're doing that, you can kind of push in on the outside there to make this thing a little bit more round. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing here. Just a tiny little bit of glue right on that little rectangle. And we're going to pull that in and glue that down to the center rectangle. And just press and hold. Kind of give that a nudge, make it nice and round. Keep holding until it's fully set. It's going to be a little bit of resistance there. It's going to want to try to pop off if you do it too soon. Okay, next we're going to take this little single piece here, and what we're going to do is we're going to put that right in the center of the bow, and we're just going to fold it over like that, so that kind of folding it, you're creating your own little score marks, and we'll put 1 little drop of glue on one side and glue that to the other side there. You know what I'll probably do is I'll zoom in and we'll get a little bit more detail here on the next one. Okay, but we've made these before. I've actually made plenty of them in various projects, but I'm gonna get more detail here in a second. And then finally the tail, you might want to take and just kind of train the tail so it's not so flat, make it kind of come out a little bit. And then we'll put glue on just the little rectangular area and glue that right to the back where those 2 sections join together to form your bow. Okay, so there's our little bow. Let me zoom in and we'll do that one more time with a little more detail. Okay, so here we go again. I'm taking my dowel, putting it in the center of the loop and just wrapping it around just to kind of, you know, give it a little bit of, well, just to make it more round, I guess. Okay, and then as I mentioned, we have a little rectangle there, You know what, let me put a brighter piece of paper behind this. It's a little tough to see. Get a little more contrast this way. There we go. Okay, so that little rectangle there, I'm going to throw just a dot of glue on that, and we're going to take it and glue that to the little rectangle there in the center between the two loops. And just press and hold that down. And while you're holding it down, you can kind of give that a push, open it up a little bit more, give it a little more dimension. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing here. Just throw a nice little dot of glue on that guy there. And bring it in. Glue it right down in the center there where that little rectangle is. You can kind of give that a push. Okay, just keep holding that for a moment while it sets. There we go. Okay, and now we're going to take the little straight piece here and lay that right in the center and center it. Then we're going to fold it back. Fold both of those sides back to kind of create a nice little center for our bow. And then throw a little bit of glue on just one side, just a dot. And take that other piece and lay it on top of this section, like so. And just press and hold that together. Let that set, like that. So that's what it looks like from the front. Okay, and then we'll take our tail, and I'm going to flare the little tails out. Throw a little dot of glue on the little rectangular area. That was more than a dot. That was a little obnoxious there, Leo. And just glue that to the back. Make sure that the tail is nice and centered, and there's your little bow. Okay, so I now have 6 of these, and these are going to go right on the very ends of the little swag that we have hanging from our gazebo. Okay, so for this, again, you could probably do it with paper, with regular glue. I'm going to use hot glue, and we'll simply just throw a little dot of glue right here on the little circles of each of the little sections of bunting, and just pop your bow right on there. Make sure that it's nice and aligned up and down. You don't want it sideways. Okay, just like that. And we'll go over here to the next one. Same thing. So you're just going to repeat this process until you have all of your bows in place. You can absolutely use regular glue for this. That shouldn't be a problem. Just make sure you get it nice and centered before that sets. There we go. That looks nice. And moving right along. So you get the idea. And aside from that, you want to take a look at the final photo to see where else we added some bling. These are some great places for it here. And again, we're going to put an embellishment, a little star there, but yours is going to come with an actual star cutout, so that if you don't have that embellishment, you can still put little stars there. Okay, so just moving along here, I'm going to finish this up, putting the bows in place, and then we can begin putting together our roof. And before you know it, our beautiful gazebo will be ready to go. Okay. These are cute little bows. The cool thing about these paper bows is they won't really lose their shape. Sometimes when you make a bow out of ribbon, especially this small, not only is it difficult, I've had to make them with using a fork. It's not always fun. These are nice. They'll pretty much keep their shape for eternity. Okay, last one. Throwing that right in place. Okay, so that really just leaves our Where the heck did it go? And you can see that I'm going to put my candles in here. And the cool thing is that the whole reason that we have the little holes there is so that when you move this around, the candles don't go flying around. Okay, but you can see how nice that's going to look. So let's put that off to the side for now. And let's get our roof all put together and wrap this thing up. So the roof is made up of these 3 sections, and then this little guy here, this here, there's a little finial that goes on top. Got a few pieces here, not too bad though. And I did a little bit of pre-prep here just to kind of get some things out of the way that were redundant. And I'll show you how all this goes together. So on these sections here, you'll see that I've already glued these white panels in place, okay? Now, we do have 2 different styles of the panels. One that has a larger star at the bottom, and then one that has a large star and then like a medium-sized star. Okay, so if you take, for example, if you take this panel and put it here, it's obviously not going to work. So you want to make sure that you get the correct panel on the correct section. And yeah, so all you really need to do is take and glue the panels down onto the main roof structure. And there is some vellum involved in this, but we're going to actually glue the vellum to the inside since no one's really going to be looking at the underside of the roof. It's just going to make life easier for us. So get your glue on this little panel piece. Make sure that you are putting it in the correct spot with the correct star alignment. And just press that down. You should end up with a nice even red border all the way around this panel. Okay, just like that. And we'll get this one in place. So you're going to repeat this 2 more times on both of the other sections until you get all of your panels in place. And then you can go ahead and start putting this together. There we go. Just get that nicely aligned, just like that. There we go. Okay. All right, so that's in place. And at this point, what we can go ahead and do, the way that this is going to work is it's going to be like this actually. So you can see how it's going to be slanted here, but it's going to come out. It doesn't go in like this, and it doesn't stay straight. It actually comes out like this. Okay, and then this tab here, that is for this section here. We'll get to that in just a minute. But we can go ahead and start putting this together actually. So this top section, essentially all you want to do is just bend this towards you, okay? And what we'll do is we'll start by gluing these 2 sections together first, and we'll work our way up. So go ahead and put a little bit of glue on just that little tab there. And I'll throw, just kind of dab that down, thin it out, and connect it to that section there. Okay. Just make sure it's aligned as accurately as you can get it. And then we'll pull this back and we'll put some glue on this tab here. Now obviously we need to, there's a little cutout in this tab here, and that's just so that it doesn't obstruct the little star element on its neighbor. Okay, so just take that, line that up as accurately as you can, like so, and press that together. There we go. Just like that. Okay. And kind of fold that flat real quick. That looks great. Okay. So now I'm going to take another section here, and with this one's going to be a little bit different. We do have to, there's 3 sections that we need to glue together, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. I'm actually going to start with the top. So let's put some glue on this long tab here, like that. And I'm going to spread that glue out to the very edge. Grab my next section and get that aligned as nicely as you can, as accurately as you can. And just press that in place. Okay. Give that a squeeze, and then we can pull this back and get our glue on this medium-sized tab here in the center. Give that a little dab and get that aligned. There we go. Wonderful. And then last but not least, we have this little section here. Just throw a couple dots of glue on this little triangle. And I'm going to hit that with my finger, bring this down, and get that aligned. And press that and hold that in place for just a moment while it sets. There we go. Okay, now when we go over here now, because it's already connected at the bottom, we can work our way from the bottom up. Throw a little glue on that tab, give it a dab, and get that joined with its neighbor. Howdy, neighbor. Let me move that out of the way. Kind of makes it easier. There we go. And just press and hold that until it's set. There we go. Starting to get some glue residue on my finger. And the long tab now. Get that on there. Okay. And pop that into place. Just get that aligned as accurately as you can. Okay, so this process is going to be pretty repetitive the rest of the way, which is okay. It's pretty easy. Okay. All right, so last section here, we're going to take that and glue that to this section here. Let's start at the top and throw some glue on this tab. I'm going a little bit thicker because I know I'm going to be spreading this out. I don't want it to dry prematurely. There we go. Grab the next section, get that nice and lined up. And there we go. Okay, so moving on to the next section here. With this one here, we're going to go from the bottom up. So let's get some glue on this medium tab here, the middle one. And grab this neighboring piece, get it lined up, and press and hold. Okay, that should be good. Move that out of the way. And get some glue on the long tab. Going a little bit thicker here. And spread that out to the very edge. And get that aligned. And press that into place. There we go. And that just leaves one more section to close it up. And you know what we'll do here, we're going to start at the top since we can more easily get our fingers in through the bottom. Okay, and spread that out to the edge. There we go. Get that aligned as accurately as we can. Here we go. That looks good. Nice. Okay. Getting there. A couple more things and we'll be done here. Okay. That should do it there. And now we'll have to kind of work from the inside since there's no more room for, it's not really that flexible anymore. It's mostly all in place. So here's that medium-sized tab, that middle one. Putting glue on it and then connecting it with its neighbor. There we go. And just press and hold that in place. There we go. And that just leaves our last little triangular tab here. I'm going to work on it from the inside. You can see it there. Just throw a few dots of glue on there, spread it out all the way around, and tuck that behind its neighbor. Press and hold, and voila. Okay, so I'd say that this is probably the most 3D that we're going to get here. There are a couple more pieces, but they're going to go together real quick. Oh, you know what? I forgot about this side here. I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that. I think I might have skipped it, but you get the idea. Let me get that glued down. So the next thing we're going to do is, well, there's a couple things we can do. We've got these little panels that are going to go on the actual roof here. So we can do that, or we can put, well, you know, it really doesn't matter what we do next. It's all kind of personal preference. I'm going to think about this for a second to see if doing it one way makes doing it, or doing the next section, any more difficult if we do it in a particular order, but I don't think it really matters. I'm just finishing up these last little tabs that I must have missed somehow, so I apologize for that. And let's see here. I don't think it really matters what we do next. Well, you know what we can do actually? How about we do this? Let's work on the finial. So I've got these two sections here. Now you'll notice on this, I already put 4 of the 6 pieces of vellum in place. Okay, so I have 2 more here, and each little piece of vellum is going to go around this little cutout. Okay, so the way I did this, and again, no one's going to really see this, so it doesn't matter what method you use to apply your glue. I'm just going to put little dots on here because I don't want to put way too much glue on here and have it spread out so much that it kind of comes in to the little cutout and is visible. So I'll just put a little bit of glue just in the form of dots around the cutout and just press that down. Okay, so again, I've already done this 4 times on the 4 other windows. You're going to do it a total of 6 times. I'm only doing it twice since I already did 4 of them, just to spare you the boredom. And there we go. And you can see how that looks from the outside. And now what we're going to do is we're going to close this up. You can see there's a little tab here on this end. We're going to throw a little bit of glue right on this tab. And we're going to bring it around, connect it to the other side. Now this is a symmetrical shape, so you can technically lay this piece down flat while you're gluing these 2 sides together, and just press and hold that in place until it's fully set. Okay, you can lay that down flat on your table in sections of 3. I'll show you what I mean here in a second. Okay, so that's the corner where we just connected everything, and there is the final little piece there. Okay, and what we're going to do next is just close up the top. So let's push these triangular tabs in place, or push them down, and let's apply some glue to each of these tabs. It's okay if you go a little heavy on this, and actually if it's not perfect, it's okay, because there's one more piece that's going to go on top of this that is going to hide any imperfections that we may have here. But what we want to do is take this and focus on aligning this side opposite the side that is already hinged with this side here. So make sure that that is nice and aligned, and the rest of them should kind of fall into place. If you need to, kind of give things a little bit of a push or a nudge to make sure that everything's nice and symmetrical. And you can flip it over, and with a dowel, you can definitely, oh, I had a pearl trying to escape again. You can definitely use your finger if you want. I'm just using a dowel. It helps me not get arthritis any sooner than I need to. There we go. Okay, and that looks like it's pretty darn good. Okay, so now these little tabs here, what we're going to do with these is these are going to get attached to the inside of our main roof. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to pop this up on top and push those tabs through. And then what we're going to do is we're going to glue the tabs to the inside of the main roof structure. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on one of these tabs first, like so. Okay, then we need to pop it in. Make sure all those tabs are coming in. And we're going to glue this tab to the inside of the wall of the main roof. And I'm going to just do it this way. It's easier for me. And I'll show you what that looks like on the inside here in just a second. Okay. So I'm going to point to it with my X-Acto. Let me see if I can get some good light on it there. Okay, so right there is that tab, right there. You can kind of see it there. Yep, there it is. It's just glued to the inside of the roof. Okay. Now with the rest of these, I would just suggest applying your glue from the inside so you don't have to keep moving this thing in and out. But definitely make sure you keep all the tabs in place. So now what I'm going to do is, we've got this tab in place. I'm going to move over to the side opposite of the side that we already have glued down. Just throw a little bit of glue on it and then push this down and take that tab and push it up against the inside of the roof and press and hold that down and let that set. Okay, and we're just going to continue all the way around with the remaining 4 tabs. So just pick any tab at this point. I'm picking this one here. Okay, you can see the glue right there. I'm going to push that up against that inside of the roof, and I'm pushing here with my finger just to kind of give it a little extra pressure. There it is. Now I'm going to move on over to the side opposite of the side we just pushed into place. I'm going to push that up against the inside of the roof and push with my other finger, pushing down here and pushing down here. Okay, and that just leaves 2 more tabs, so it doesn't matter which one. I'm going to put glue on both of them and push that tab up against the inside. Then go over to the last one, push that up against the inside, and there we go. And you can see all those tabs now are glued to the inside of the roof, and everything looks pretty darn good. I do have, I think, a little touch-up that I can do here. I'm going to throw a little bit of glue on a scrap piece of paper. I kind of don't like how this isn't sitting completely flush here, so I'm going to paint a little bit of glue right about there and press that down so it looks a little more flush. Again, I think that's going to be hidden when we put the actual finial on top, but I guess maybe I'm just being a perfectionist at this point. Okay, so that's fine. We've got that in place. Now, before we actually put the little trim piece on the bottom of this roof, I'm going to move these out of the way, and we're going to put our vellum in place, because there is some vellum that's going to go inside here, so that when the light goes through, everything looks nice and blue. Okay, so you can see where these vellum pieces are going to go. Okay, you want to make sure that when you position them and glue them down, that they are covering up all of the little cutouts for the stars and the little holes. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do dots along the perimeter here, all the way around the perimeter, and then maybe just a few between the holes and the star, like that. And I'm going to pop that in place. Now, again, you can, if you want, it's a little late now if you're following me exactly how I'm doing it. This vellum could technically be sandwiched between the red and the white layer if you want. I just think this is easier. So, and no one's, like I said, no one's going to be really looking in there. So that is how we're going to get our vellum in place. I'm going to do the same thing here. Just a series of dots along the perimeter, like so, and then just a few dots in between the little stars and the circles, and just lay that down. Make sure that you're positioning this so that the vellum covers all of the cutouts. Okay, just like that. And you can see what that's going to look like from the outside. That looks really nice. Okay, so at this point, it does become kind of repetitive, so if you want to move ahead without me, feel free to do so. You're just going to finish putting the rest of your vellum in place. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting these pieces on the roof. So when you see me grab these pieces, you can go ahead and continue the video. And then we'll just kind of go from there. But I guess I'm just going to stay here with you for those of you that want to hear me blab, and that's fine. Am I missing? Nope, there it is. Okay, so just 3 more. And I think I already know what I'm going to do with this. As much as I want to keep this and use it for my and actually I may end up doing it. I may end up keeping this for myself, but we were invited to a lake house for the 4th of July, and I was thinking about gifting this. My girlfriend's friend, she's got a really nice home, and she really kind of prides herself on all the decorating she did, and she does admire some of my tables, pretty much all of my tables, the dining room. I always try to do something for every season, and may give this to her. I don't know. It's hard to part with these things sometimes. Okay. So again, just make sure that when you're putting this vellum down that you're covering all of the little cutouts. And if you accidentally get some glue in spots where you don't need it, it's not a big deal. Like I said, no one's really going to be analyzing the inside of the roof. But if you are making this for sale, for example, and you're selling it on Etsy and you want it to look really professional, you can absolutely, like I mentioned, you can sandwich this vellum on the outside between the red section and the white overlay. So what you would do is you would glue the vellum to the back of this white piece and then glue the white piece into place. Okay, but that's it for our vellum. Okay, so now, that's right, we're going to do the little overlays for the roof. So we can tuck these tabs back in. We're going to need to do that eventually anyway. And then this way it'll sit nice and flat for us. Okay, just like that. And these pieces here are going to go on like this. Okay, so what I'd suggest doing is probably well, I guess we could just do it all in one fell swoop. It's not really that big of a piece. So get your glue on pretty much this entire section here. Make sure that you get some glue out to the perimeter, the bottom and the top here. Okay. And what I would do is I would start by making sure that it's centered first and foremost, and then pressing it up against this edge here where you have the little score mark section. Just make sure that that's lined up, and then just work your way up and down, just making sure that it's making good contact throughout. And there we go. And we'll just repeat that 5 more times. So again, this is one of those repetitive things. I think once you see it once or twice, you'll get it. So you can pause me, do your thing. If you're listening to a podcast or something, you can return to that. And then just the next thing I'm going to do is work on this finial, I think. I think we'll get that in place and then go from there. Okay, so you can see how that goes on nicely. Just make sure that you've got the spacing correct so that you've got nice little borders going all the way around these sections. And that ought to do it. But yeah, things are starting to open up around here. in Illinois. We're one of the last ones. I was able to get a beach pass to a Park District beach, and they sold out, and it's kind of limited because of the whole social distancing thing. So I may actually end up going to a beach this year that's not crazy crowded, which will be a first, that's for sure. That's kind of fun. You know, there's benefits to. I would consider myself not an antisocial person, but I don't typically do well in large crowds. I mean, I can handle it, but I prefer things a little more chill, as the cool kids say. And it's just nice when things aren't just overcrowded all the time. So this will definitely be interesting to see how things pan out as far as stuff reopening with this whole social distancing thing. I mean, I go to football games and there's 60,000 people there, but that's a little bit different. It's a whole different vibe. And typically, there may or may not be a little bit of adult beverage consumption involved with that as well. And, you know, that always helps you tolerate sensory overload because it kind of numbs you. Not something I look forward to, but I do love me a good football game. So I don't know if we're going to see that this year, but we'll just keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully they'll at least start the season and televise it and play the games even if they don't have people in the stands. It's a shame, but you know what actually grounded me was seeing photos from, I believe it was the flu pandemic. Was it 1918, I think, where there were people at baseball games wearing masks, and it didn't seem that weird to me all of a sudden for whatever reason. So just kind of, you know, do our part and help fight this thing, and hopefully life will at some point return back to normal. It hasn't really changed all that much around here. I'm at home, work from home all the time. I don't really have to commute anywhere. So only thing that's really changed is we just don't go out and do a lot of fun things. And in some ways that kind of stresses me out a little bit because maybe I am home all the time. And you know, there's no separation of work and home are all kind of the same thing, and you have to try extra hard to kind of balance that emotionally and mentally sometimes. So I think that's why I do enjoy leaving the house and doing fun things. It kind of breaks up the whatever routine I have in my brain. Okay. All right, so those panels are in place. And that was pretty straightforward. So that just leaves one last little finial here. We'll put that, well, you know what? We're going to do that later. Let's do this first before we smash that finial. Okay, so we've got this little section here and these two pieces here. What we're going to do is we're going to connect these two pieces together using this little triangle. So throw a little bit of glue on that triangle there. Give it a dab, if that's your style, and connect it to this other section here, like so. And I'm going to fold this on top of itself so I can get it aligned more accurately. And just press and hold that in place, like that. Okay, so now we've got one long continuous piece here. And what we're going to do now is connect it so that it's, well, it's all joined together. Hit that with my finger and get that connected. And again, I can fold that onto itself while I do that, just to make sure that the alignment is accurate, just like that. And just press and hold that in place until it's set. There we go. Okay, now the whole idea with this is we're going to create kind of a lip so that when we put the lid on top of our gazebo, there's a little lip there that kind of catches it and prevents it from just randomly falling off. Okay, we got to get that lip in there. It's not all the way in. There we go. Okay, so yeah, so here's what we're going to do. We'll take this and just pop it right on top here, like so. Get it. You might have to stretch it out a little bit to get it to go around all of these tabs. Come on, there we go. Okay, and we're going to take and glue each of these tabs to the inside of this little strip that we just created. Now there's no need to get that glue all the way out to the edges or anything. We just need it to hold. So just start on one side, get that glued in place. And then I'm going to go shift over to the other side. We'll pull this tab down. Just throw a line of glue on there. Nothing crazy. Like that. And we're going to fold it up to the inside, up against the inside of this little tab that we just, or this little strip that we just created. And while you're doing that, make sure that this little strip is nice and flush up against the surface. Okay, and then we just move on to the next section here. Throw a little bit of glue on that, push it up against the inside of this strip. There we go. And it's kind of good if you kind of alternate, go from side to side. Helps it set and align more evenly. There we go. Okay, and next one, just like that. We'll push that up against the inside of this strip. I think I've got one more here. Yep, there it is, last one. Little line of glue, push that up against the inside. There we go. And there we have it. Okay, so now all that's left to do is take this and glue it to the bottom of this section. And what we're going to do is we're going to anchor it on one side first. So get some glue on just one tab. And I'm going to spread that glue out like so. And just do your best to get that aligned as accurately as you can. Get it nice and centered. I think I might be a hair off, but again, it's not really, not going to make or break it. There we go. That should do that. That looks good. And now we just need to close it up. So let's get our glue on the remaining 5 tabs here. We're going to spread that glue out to the edges. We want it to look nice and clean and seamless. Oops. Got to work kind of quick here. There we go. Yeah, I'm going a little bit thicker with the glue here because I've learned during this assembly that if I go too light, it kind of dries out really quick and then I end up having to reapply. I got way too much glue there. Way too much glue this time. That happens. Eventually you get a feel for it. I think I'm getting a little craft fatigue. I've been crafting all day. That's okay. There we go. All right, so we've done this a few times now. We're going to take this and close it up. Let's match it up with the side opposite of the side that's already anchored and focus on getting that in place first, because that will help kind of set the tone for the rest of the sides. They'll almost kind of just fall into place. There you go. You can see how nicely that's all just kind of fallen into place. And just press down on those tabs. Make sure they're all making good contact. And if we don't get them all, we can absolutely go back in and kind of clean things up. No big deal. But do your best. And if you had a little excess glue there, just kind of rub it off with your fingers before it really sets. But I think we pretty much nailed it here. Let's see what that looks like here in a second. Yeah, it looks good. right, so our little lip is in place. So that should pop in there nicely, and it does. Look at that. And that just leaves our top little finial, which I have here. I've already kind of pre-folded everything, and I've actually inked it as well. All we need to do is throw a little bit of glue on this tab here. Let me move this out of the way. It's kind of blocking the light. Just throw a little bit of glue on that tab. I'm going to dab that a little bit, get it out to the edges, and we're going to tuck that right behind the neighboring piece there. Make it all one solid piece, just like that. Okay. And once we have that, you can take and push these tabs in, move this out of the way. Now this that section's already anchored, so we don't need to glue that on, but we do need to put glue on these remaining tabs. I'm going a little bit heavier here on the glue, and I'll just kind of dab that with my fingers. Okay, and again, when we close this up, focus on getting this side, the side opposite of the side that's already hinged, aligned first, and that will help the rest of it just kind of fall into place. And with this, it would probably help just to kind of use your table and just leave that like so for just a moment while it sets. And then actually while that's happening, find a nice pearl. So I'm going to put a pearl right on top there, like that, to kind of finish it off on top. And I'm going to, this table must not be level. Things are always kind of getting away from me. So we're just going to glue, we're going to put a little bit of hot glue right on the very top of this. And then I'm going to drop my little pearl right on there. There we go. And voila. There we go. So I just hot glued the little pearl to the top of the little finial here. And then all that's left to do is throw a little bit of glue on top of our little section here. And I'm going to spread that out to the very edges so that this thing sits nice and flat. And we'll take this guy. Now you want to make sure you get it centered. So I'm going to stand up and do this. And just get that nice and centered. Pardon my head for 1 second. Actually, you could probably go over to the other camera angle. And you can kind of feel with your fingers, initially at least, whether or not you've got it centered, and then take a look at it from the side. Make sure you got it centered there, and there it is. Yeah, so one other thing that I want to talk about and mention is the front of our gazebo here, right here. Well, obviously we've got the candles in there, but we do have these little American flags, and if you have some of your own flags from your own country, or if you have an American flag, what we're going to do, I'm going to see if I can even show this. It's going to be kind of tough. Let me take these candles out so it's easier. What we're going to do is I'm going to put some little pearls or rhinestones here in these sections. There's going to be a star here. I'll probably put some little pearls on the bows, but what we're going to do with the flag is we're going to have the flag coming out like this. And one thing you can do to make the flag look even cooler is grab a dowel and train the paper on the flags to kind of make it look like they're kind of waving in the wind. Okay, and just kind of like that. If you need to trim the toothpick, you can, but ultimately I'm going to pop it in like that and just hot glue it into place right about there. So anyway, again, take a look at the final photo of the gazebo so you can see where I added the little embellishments. And that's about it. And again, I've got a couple of dreamers that we contacted today to put together, well, versions of this for other countries. UK, we've got one in Denmark, and we've got one in Canada. I know there's a ton of different countries. We don't have the time and resources to make one for every country, but I hope that you make one to celebrate your country as well. Just change up the colors to complement your country's flag. And yeah, so anyway, you know, we're really about solidarity, especially with all the stuff that's going on in the world right now. Just want to help everyone feel like we're, you know, all together, we're all the same. And I don't know how else to do that, you know, other than to keep doing what we're doing and just, you know, just continue being nice and love everybody. So hope you guys can do that too. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, take a moment and hit our YouTube page, hit that subscribe button. And while you're there, hit the little bell so that you get notifications anytime we release any new product, whether it be free or paid. And if you make this or anything from our new bundle, I'd love to see it, and so would the almost 21,000 other dreamers that inspire us daily. So head on over to your Facebook, do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, or you can type in that URL directly into your web browser. It'll take you right there. So anyway, so happy 4th of July to our friends in the States, and happy Canada Day, July 1st, I believe it is, to our friends in Canada. And I do hope that you guys make this and adapt it to celebrate your unique country. And as always, I look forward to crafting with you again.